In 1624, the Dutch West India Company sent around 30 families to live and work on an island in the northeast of a country that would go on to become the United States of America. They called this settlement New Amsterdam in ode to the city in their homeland. The land had previously been called New Angoulême, named by Italian explorer Giovanni da Verrazano in honour of the French King Francis I, who had previously been court of the commune in Angoulême. New Amsterdam eventually moved when the governor purchased the larger Manhatten island from the natives. The settlement kept the name New Amsterdam and grew and grew. In 1664, however, the British seized New Amsterdam and changed its name, naming it in honour of the Duke of York, and from here are the origins to Earth's most iconic city, New York City. New York's Dutch origins can still be seen in places, however, with orange and tulips scattered across the city's flags. This mixture of Dutch and English colonisation is not only present in the changing of the city's name, but also in the names of the 5 just as iconic boroughs of New York City: the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, and Staten Island. NYC's interwoven multicultural history explains to us this eclectic collection of names. The Bronx actually comes from a family name, a name belonging to Jonas Bronk. Jonas's early life seems to be a bit of a mystery. Swedish born, though this is still up for debate, he eventually emigrated to Denmark, then to the Netherlands, eventually marrying a Dutch woman and sailing to New Amsterdam as it was called at the time. This migration was due to the local economy in the Netherlands falling to pieces thanks to, and trust me, I'm not making this up, tulip mania. Jonas and his wife flourished here. Here he established a farm on the eastern bank of a river that would eventually be named after him, however with a different spelling of his surname, the Bronx River, which of course led to the naming of the borough of the Bronx. Brooklyn's name comes from New York's Dutch origin. The name Brooklyn comes from the Dutch word for marshland, Breukelen, which is also the name for a small town in the Netherlands. So I guess New York is the home of New Brooklyn, kinda. Many places in New York are named after Dutch places and things. Haarlem is named after the Dutch city of Haarlem, and Coney Island's name comes from the anglicisation of the Dutch Konijn Island, meaning Rabbit Island. The name of the borough of Staten Island is also of Dutch origins. The official name of Dutch Parliament is the States General, which in Dutch is Staten Generaal, meaning Staten Island is named after the Dutch government. Queens, however, is from New York's English heritage. Queens was named in 1683 in honour of Queen Catherine of Braganza, who was the wife of King Charles II of England. Queens was named in correlation with Kings County, which was named after the aforementioned King Charles II. Kings County is the biggest county in New York State and shares its boundaries with modern Brooklyn. However, the most famous of all of New York's boroughs, Manhattan, has a name that doesn't come from Dutch or English. Manhattan's name comes from the language of the Lenape Native Americans and derives from the word Mannahatta. Its first known recordings is in the 1609 logbook of Robert Jewett on his travels into what would now be New York Harbour. It is thought that the name means island of many hills in the Lenape language. The Lenape, also known as the Delaware, are the Native Americans native to the area that covers New York City. Before it was called New York, New Amsterdam, or even New Angoulême, these natives called the land Lenape-Hawking. Yet, of course, while New York has an iconic name as do its boroughs, it also has an iconic nickname, the Big Apple. The nickname Big Apple was originally coined in 1920. Despite New York State being America's top apple grower, its origins actually lie in horse racing. NYC newspaper sports journalist John Fitzgerald heard of Sablehands in New Orleans, calling New York the Big Apple. He liked that name and began using it in his columns. The name ended up being used at jazz clubs in the 1930s. Jazz musicians used it to allow people to know that New York City was the home of jazz. The name, however, did fall out of popularity until the 1970s when a big tourist campaign revitalized the name, and since then, New York and Big Apples have been synonymous. America is often referred to as a melting pot, a place where many cultures meet and come together. And where else is this easier to see than in the names of the boroughs in its most populated city?